Awesome. There it was. Heard that the recording is in progress. Happy Thursday, everybody. A little bit of a change. It's May 21st, 2026 user group. Appreciate everybody joining us and looks like a very good crowd joining us live here today as we barrel into the Memorial Day weekend. That's hard to believe that it's already Memorial Day. But as always, appreciate everybody joining us. Big thanks to Kim. If you are watching this as a recording, if you get a chance to join us live, Kim does a really nice job welcoming everybody and getting us set up, and always appreciate all the great things she does to keep us running. And then can't start the meeting without thanking Tony and Bree as well. They are just, if you've been to a user group meeting and you've done them live, as your questions and answers come in, Bree and Tony and Kim occasionally as well are back there just feverishly answering those questions and getting you directed to the right resources as you see some of the things that are going on in the user group meeting. So again, can't thank all of these kind folks enough for we put on a little production here when we do the user group, and it's super uh, fun to be able to bring you guys on and share all this great stuff going on in eVA with you. Staying on that theme, I've made kind of a point with the user group. For those of you that have been with us for a few years, we, have been through all sorts of iterations of this, and we've been kind of trying to do our best to be demo centric, not just to lecture at you about the roadmap or things that are coming, but to really dig in and show you some things in eVA. And we're I hope, a pretty good agenda for that today, to be able to continue to go through and focus on some actual real live, or at least in our test environment in some cases, functions and features. So got some eVA best practices that we're going to cover here after our little welcome message, some additional demonstrations, and then going to share some exciting new enhancements that'll set the table for our next user group meeting. And really, I'm hoping there's all sorts of fun things to demo when we gather again in July. That'll be our next user group meeting. So kind of set the table for our next user group meeting. So hopefully you guys will find the agenda to be interesting and fun today. As always, I leave this screen. We've been doing this now probably going on a couple of years. We do pretty regular monthly releases, maybe not every single month of the year, but 9 to 10 releases in a year where we're fixing things and enhancing and doing all sorts of fun stuff. If you are one who likes to read through every little single thing we do, including data warehouse stuff and you know things that maybe are more operational in nature and going on behind the scenes, you can always go check out those release notes. There's the link that it's located at. And then eVA tips, we're big fans of these tips. There's all sorts of stuff out there for the buying community and your suppliers on the various features and functions of eVA. So let's dig in here to best practices, and we're going to focus on receiving. Receiving in eVA, Miranda Bowling is our lead here, our functional lead here at DGS and DPS for the receiving module. And boy, she handles a lot of tickets in regards to receiving. And not necessarily that anything is wrong or broken per se with the receiving module, but we certainly have some situations where we have our users get themselves into a bad situation with receiving, and some things happening there with receiving that that could be avoided. So I might be going over some elementary stuff for you guys today, but I thought it was important this morning to kind of cover receiving and talk about some various things. So let's dig into that. Receiving. And again, lots of notes on this page. I'm actually going to show you a quick example here in just a second, but just a couple notes I wanted to run through with you. Consider how you are going to receive, and quite honestly, guys, kind of take that a step, even a step forward from that, or how you will be invoiced as you are setting up your requisition and eventual purchase order. So if you're doing a service, do you have an hourly rate? Can you estimate the hours? Instead of just doing quantity of one and, $10,000, where, you're not really breaking things down. Because how is then, from a service perspective, how are you going to be invoiced? So are you just getting an invoice that says we did $3,000 of work? Certainly, if that's the case, you want to think about that as you're setting up your rec. Or are you getting an invoice that is a little bit more clear and says we did 40 hours of work for you, or 80 hours were used, and it's very clear on the invoice that you're getting back what the hourly rate was. That's really could help you, especially if you have some of that history, from past invoices, past purchase orders, past contracts, however you want to look at it, and how you get that requisition and eventual PO set up. Because that's really going to drive how you're going to receive. And then eventually, if you are needing a check to be cut, how that check's going to be cut. So, guys, quite honestly, thinking about this in a broader perspective, how are we meeting our three-way match requirements, right? So consider that. Am I receiving by amount? Is it some sort of service we're not really sure what the hours are, and we're just knocking money out? Doesn't really matter, right? Or are we receiving by quantity? Now, obviously, that's a lot easier in a goods-based purchase. I'm buying office products, MRO, uniform, shoes, things like that. Much easier to goods. I need 5 widgets, 10 widgets, 12 widgets, whatever it is. Here's all the different prices. Much easier to think about it that way. But certainly, even receiving by quantity, if you've got a service that's based on hourly rates and you're going to receive 100 hours, right? So again, thinking about that and really trying our best, maybe using a previous invoice, asking the supplier directly how you're going to be invoiced, asking how they're going to ship things to you. How is the service, how are you going to eventually bill me for this service? How are you going to ship me these goods? That's going to really help you think, hey, from the procurement side, how do I need to set this up so that at the end of this process, getting that three-way match done, getting these things received, getting that invoice tied in so that it makes sense, making sure that it makes sense. A couple other things we're seeing, and this kind of reinforcing a best practice. Do not, please, do not process a change order. I even made it capitalized and highlighted it in our presentation here. Process a change order to switch, fix, whatever you want to call it, quantity and unit price once receiving has started. All right. So once you've made a decision and you've gone down the path, and maybe you're doing partial receiving, you got 5 of your widgets, a quarter of the service or whatever, a couple hours, couple $100, couple $1,000, whatever it is that the service has been performing, you've started receiving. Don't go back and switch it. All right. Don't go back and switch it with a change order, because if you need to do that, I need you to back out every single receipt you've done, right? Because you need to reset yourself to 0 before you make those types of changes. My example, it's a pretty basic one, but guys, our team, I have seen it, Miranda has seen it, Tony has seen it, Bree and the account executives have seen it. And this is a very basic example, but I create a requisition and an eventual purchase order where I'm buying 2 units at $5 for a total of 10. And then for whatever reason, maybe because the invoice just was different, something happens and a change order is done and it switches from 10 units to $1 per unit for, again, still that total of $10. The system, when you change those units and unit price in between order versions of the change order process, that whacks things out big time, particularly if receiving has been done. So again, just kind of a thing I wanted to throw up there just as kind of a tip, a best practice, things like that, just to kind of reinforce that. Continuing on with returns. With returns, you have the ability in eVA to return items that you have received. Here's the trick, and we see this a lot too. In order to return something, I need to receive it first. All right. So even if I know again, I'll do some pretty basic examples here. Even if I know I've received 10 widgets and I'm immediately rejecting or sending back 5, I've got to receive all of them first and confirm the receipt. All right. On May 21st, yes, I'm confirming I received all 10. And then as soon as that receipt for 10 is done, I can process a return. So you're confirming I got everything, but then right after that, you're saying I'm sending 5 back. All right, I'm sending 5 back. All right, we're seeing a lot of returns being done or attempting to be done without an actual confirmation of receipt. So again, I can't return what I haven't received. All right, so just a thing to keep in mind. Also, create returns from approved and processed receipts. And again, that's kind of reinforcing bullet 1, right? Whatever that quantity is, whatever hits your loading dock, services, whatever it is, get it in first, then whatever you need to return, push back. All right. Do not, again, create returns from draft or deleted receipts. And we're actually putting some controls in to help you with that. But I think one of those, deleted receipts, you could still have a receipt. Oh, I didn't need to do that. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. I made a mistake. And you can still do a return off a deleted receipt. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Again, approved process receipts. All right. And here's my example again, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to walk through a very basic scenario and show you guys this. So you ordered 10, but you really only needed 5. Now this is different. You ordered 10, but you really only needed 5. You ordered too much. All right. That's where the change order scenario comes in, because you're actually changing what you need. You didn't receive 10 and 5 were broken and you're waiting on those other 5. You actually ordered 10 and then you went, whoa, we don't have the money anymore. Or wow, we've got too many. That's where a change order comes in. So what do we do? If receiving is completed for all 10, return the 5 and do a change order to set it back to 5. If you don't have any receiving, process the change order. Okay, just go ahead and do the change order before you do any receiving, if you need to make that type of change. And then the quick demo I want to show you is the example of I've ordered 10, I confirm receipt of 10, I return 5, let's say they're broken, defective, didn't meet my standards, and then I'm going to re-receive the 5 to complete my order to 10. That's the example I want to show you, that I want to walk you through. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and we'll get back to the presentation in just a moment. We're going to start some demos, and then after this, I've got all sorts of fun little demos to go through. So let me reshare. I'm going to pull up eVA here. Scoot camera out of the way. All right, looks like it switched over. All right, so I am in a very basic purchase order here in my test environment, and I've got my 10 widgets here that I've ordered, right? 10, price was 15, pretty basic situation here. So again, the quick example I'm going to show you may be like, Shane, this is just basic. I can't believe you're showing me something this basic, but I promise you, We're seeing a lot of weird things happening with this, and I just kind of want to walk you through this. All right. So order 10, price is 15, total of 150. I've done no receiving. I can create a receipt right off this header, but I'll also pop over here on my PO into my receipts bucket. You'll notice there's 0 records. I don't have any receipts. So I'm going to go ahead and create a receipt, and we're going to bring in all 10 of these items. All right. So the first thing you need to do when you get a receipt created is very simply hit save. The save feature pulls in all the line items that are on the PO. Like by default, it pulls in everything. All right, by default. So in this case, if I had multiple line items, I could modify what was received. I could do partial receiving here. If I had multiple line items and I'm not receiving those in this particular receipt, you got a trash can, you can delete them, you can edit the quantity here, do all sorts of fun stuff. Another thing I want to show you now, we're going to receive by quantity today. But remember, I mentioned earlier talking about receiving by amount. To do that, I could go in and I could edit. And right here where it says quantity to receive, I could shift this to US dollars. And then you'll notice that shifts from the quantity to the total amount of that line item, that particular line item, which is $150. Again, we're not going to do that today. I'll just close out of there. But again, that is where you would make that switch to receive by amount. Quick tip on that. Once you make a decision to receive by amount for a particular line item, that's it. The rest of the receiving is going to be done by amount. If for some reason later on down the road you figured out you made a mistake, you got to back all that receiving. You got to basically return everything to set that line item back to 0. And then you could start a new receipt and shift it whichever direction you want to go. So again, if we make a mistake, we really need to back all of the receiving out and make that fix. One of the things too, a tip, now by default, the delivery date that comes in to the receipt is today's date, 5/21. However, to document receiving, to document maybe you've got a lot of stuff and it comes in on a Friday, it comes in on your day off, and then you're not processing that receiving until later down the road, you can backdate your delivery dates to be accurate there as well. If there is a mistake made with receiving and you're talking to Miranda or your account executive or Tony or me, and we go back all that out, we need to just get everything backed out. We're going to delete all these receipts. This is a mess. You can always go back and for historical purposes, do your receiving to make sure it's historically accurate by adjusting that delivery date. Okay. All right. So to continue on with this example, I'm going to receive all 10 in this case. There's my total received. I'm not changing my quantities. We're receiving by quantity. I'm going to submit. A little survey there pops up, and that is fully received now. I'll show you what that looks like on the browse side. It kind of evens up. It shifts. You don't see the little truck. I don't know if I have, there's one. Like if there's a truck, it means deliveries are still there. But in this case, the system is telling you, whoa, you've had final delivery. You're done. Everything's zeroed out. So for this particular case, we're in final delivery. But we'll go back in here. So let's say for these, and there's my receipt here that I did today. But again, we're doing an example today where, hey, we're confirming we got 10 widgets. We got 10 of something. So 5/21 today, I'm confirming, hey, I counted them. I got all 10. I opened that box up. I opened these units up, and 5 of them are busted. Oh, crud, they're a mess. So we can, from this approved receipt, I can come here and I can create a return because I'm going to send 5 back. So simply hit create return. A return looks very similar to a receipt. It opens up kind of a header page. It asks you, and it's really driven on you're shipping it back to the supplier. So you notice it's not a receive date anymore, it's a shipping date because you're sending those 5 items back. So again, if you hit save, that pulls in all of the quantity that you're returning. So we received 10. It's saying, all right, by default, I'm assuming you're returning 10. Well, in this case, we're not. I can go in here and edit via the pencil, or in this case, I can just very quickly, we're going to return 5. I'll hit save just so you see that update. And instead of $150 worth in 10 quantity, we're going to do 5. And then again, this is very shipping focused on your side since you're doing the return. It asks you to schedule that return. Quite honestly, if you wanted to, you could hold this return until you truly get those items packaged and out the door. But in most cases, for you guys, you can confirm shipping right away. And then again, you could hold it if you want to. You can confirm receipt on the supplier side, and then you're done, right? You're done. We have now processed the return, and there you go. So we confirmed all 10, and we've sent 5 back. And the code on this, receive, return, right? Receive, return. Okay. So now I said to kind of finish this off, we don't want to change down to now if all we are ever going to do on this particular purchase order is a units of 5, we can now go process a change order and set our quantity from 10 to 5. But in this case, we really want all 10 items. So we have documented we received 10, we've returned 5, and in this case, all I would need to do is I can create a receipt again to finish this off. Again, you get a blank header page. And if I hit save, that's going to pull in, and the system's smart enough to know, well, hey, you still got 5 outstanding. You received 10, you return 5. There's 5 still outstanding. When I hit save, it pulls those 5 in. Again, you could do a partial receipt here. You get some math calculation there to let you know you're kind of zeroing this thing out. And again, just like we did before, I'm submitting that. And then I want to go back. Let me jump back into this page so you can see it. There you go. You get a nice look at my initial receipt where I pulled everything in. I found the 5 broken units. I returned them. And then, and this is really fast. You notice my delivery dates are all the same, but you get the idea. Later on that day, I got my 5 replacement units, and we have closed this one out. So that is one of the concepts I wanted to show you today. And again, I hope you guys look at me and go, Shane, that's the most basic thing I've ever seen in my life. I know how to do that, but I can promise you it is one area that we are seeing a lot of tickets on a daily and weekly basis where people are getting their wires crossed when they're doing that type of stuff. So I hope that review and kind of thought process there was helpful. Please feel free to share that with your staff. Some of that stuff, if you need to kind of walk through the mentality of that. And again, I hope that's helpful for you.
And we
Let me get
definitely have a lot of conversation going on both in the
good,
chat as well as lots of questions in the Q&A,
good.
and a lot of it centers around how the system works now versus I think practices that were followed before and just
Sure.
changes in our processes in general. Lots of things around, like a quote unquote blanket order, or if the PO is closed out because all the receiving's done. Once final delivery is complete, it appears to be closed. It closes the PO and the
Yep. And
accounting
there are
system.
ways you can reopen POs by going back into the line item. There's all sorts of, not really covering all of those scenarios today, but there are, certainly ways to do that.
And then if you have concerns, definitely we acknowledge that we hear your concerns, and if this continues to be something that it is coming from your processes to using the system, and it's very complicated because of the processes you follow, please work with your account executive or work with your EVA lead and make sure that if you need us to be looped in, your AE will get us involved, and that us being the EVA team. We're here to show you the possibilities of how the system can work for you, not against you. So then lean on those additional resources to make sure your processes are making this a more simplistic way for you to do things. And that might be a change from how you're currently utilizing the system and the processes that you follow. But we are definitely here to let you know the capabilities and the extent to which the system can work for you. It's not supposed to work against you. And
Absolutely. There is also, I'll put a plug in. I don't know that it's every single month, but I know it's several times a year, not just once or twice, like a lot of sessions. We have a dedicated receiving session. More often than not, Miranda Bowling does teach that receiving session. It's a virtual instructor-led training session. And if that those details, if you go to buyer training on the EVA homepage, if you yourself or you have members of your staff that need to go through that training is available and it's free. And love for you to have you or your folks attend that. And you can ask all sorts of wild questions in that session to get help in that particular area. So continue, and again, much like Kim said, appreciate the discussion and the questions and all the stuff. That's awesome. That's kind of what these bug meetings are for. Get you guys thinking, get you guys looking at processes, again, trying to do more demonstrations and have some fun with y'all. So shifting gears a little bit, we'll be back into EVA here in just a second for some more demonstration stuff. Want to talk about, not even sure if you guys noticed them, but we've got two new public contract links out in our environment. Let me go just to a regular old EVA homepage here. There we go. Two new contract links, and I know you're not seeing the EVA homepage yet, but I was queuing that up for me to see. We have an area where you're seeing all contracts that are entered into EVA, and the link name is simply Commonwealth of Virginia contracts. And then our DPS statewide contracts, so non-IT contracts that are managed by DGS and DPS are out there as well. And I want to just kind of, again, we're going to stop sharing the presentation and I'm going to move over to EVA. There we go. And I'll give that a second to load up. There it goes. Looks like it's loaded from y'all's perspective. Let me get boy, that camera just likes to get a little camera feature with Zoom, and that sucker just likes to shift around no matter what you're doing. All right, so let me show you these real quick, just so we can have a look at them. If I go to my contracts and sources dropdown, you'll now see a link for Commonwealth of Virginia contracts. Guys, that's everything. That is every public contract that is entered into EVA, be it an agency-specific contract, all the statewide contracts, even if a local government throws contract out and they've marked it as public, they've thrown that out there. One of the key things to remember, and let me just drive you over to the contract side, and I'm in UAT. I'm just gonna pull any old random contract here for you. In this one right now, look at that. Boy, that's set to private. If you or your contract managers need to make sure that this contract is visible, transparent, and publicly available, you want to make sure that that option is selected on your contract record to make sure that it is public. You want to make sure that is set as public. There are probably not too many cases out there where a contract needs to remain private. I'm sure there are examples, but more often than not, we're in public procurement. And even if it's an agency-specific contract, it should be available and publicly displayed on the EVA homepage and available for the general public to see for transparency purposes. So just that's a little tip to kind of slip in there, and I'll go over. I actually have a slide that we'll get to here in a second. But getting back to this, we want to get to our link here for all Commonwealth of Virginia contracts. When we click that, a little bit different view. This is an area where you can search for suppliers and specific purchase orders as well. You'll notice on the link we built, it is defaulted there, and there is a filter that gets populated where contract becomes part of that filter. Okay. So in this case, if I search for one of my favorite things to search for, uniforms, I am now, you'll notice a secondary filter popped in where uniforms and contract is there, and it's waiting on results, and it returns 16 results because it is returning contracts across all of our entities in eVA. So you'll notice there's a VDAX one here, DWR, City of Hampton has several. There's one of the DPS statewide contracts right there for law enforcement. There's another one for clothing, footwear, and accessories. Ooh, look, Hampton's got cheerleading uniforms. My daughter would like that. DOF, I mean, you're kind of seeing everything here, right? From a uniform perspective, all the cool things that are going on there. So you really get everything.
And I'm going to
Um,
pop in real quick just to
sure.
clarify, because there was a question that came over in the chat. Yes, Shane is on the public
No,
view off
absolutely.
of the eVA
Absolutely.
website. So, yes, the contract information is publicly available. It's visible to anybody that visits our eVA website, including your staff.
Absolutely. And this, again, very important. We're in public procurement, even if it's an agency specific contract. Very often, more often than not, we are have kind of a requirement to be transparent and open, and they end up here. All right. But again, this is everything in the Commonwealth, right? Couple little key tips here to talk about when we're talking about you know, public contract in this particular search. It ain't the smartest search in the world. I did uniforms with an S on it. Um, it's really specifically looking for the word uniforms. It can be, you know, that could narrow your search results. And let me see. Um, watch, I can remove filters and that resets everything. I'm going to do you, and if we had 16 results before. I don't know if this is a good example. I'll put that in. You'll notice it says it's waiting for results. It adds that as a filter option. Now I have 22 results because I dropped the S in uniform, right? It's not uniforms anymore, it's uniform. So some things to watch for. This is a very text specific search. I'll throw a little hint in there. We're actually looking at improving that and making this search smarter, so it's not so text specific, but right now that's the way it lives. A couple other things, if you want to narrow it down by entity, you can see the entity drop down and it actually gives you counts across here. So I could narrow this down to DGS DPS, which is our statewide contracting arm, with I only want to see contracts and I want to see uniform. And then, hey, I see rental of uniforms. I see my law enforcement ones, and I see clothing, footwear, and accessories that must have uniform baked into it somewhere from a description perspective. And I have that information here. There do on these uniforms. There you can view spend information, you can get more info, you can see the suppliers. See that Cintas here is a supplier for that. If you want to see more information about a particular contract, you can hit more info. That pulls up information on that, and you can also pull the publicly posted documentation. All right, publicly posted documentation. Now I've got a tip for you here in this area. We have some situations and people are reporting to us, hey, I went to the public contract link that I just showed you. I found the contract I wanted. I pulled it up. I tried to get the document and I got some sort of security error. One of the things that can happen in this environment, because this is a public page, there are IP address, particularly at specific agencies or when you're on the COV network, that look the same. Um, there are some security features in this. So if multiple people from your agency, and even sometimes multiple people, if you're on the same network, like the COV network for executive branch agencies, if you come into the same contract and hit the same link, the system is seeing the same IP address and it's getting pinged right on this public side, and it throws up a security thing, CAPTCHA fires, and you'll get weird blocking errors and things like that. Because what the system is seeing is the same IP address coming into the same record, hitting certain documents. One suggestion, if you're needing to obtain contract documentation and particularly download documents, if you have an eVA login, if you or your staff has an eVA login, you don't necessarily need to, and I'm even suggesting that maybe you wouldn't want to use the public search. Users, certainly with sourcing access and contracting access, and even users with requisitioning access, have the ability to browse contracts while they're logged into eVA. Okay. So that way you are coming in from a secure environment and downloading documents. You're not going to have those IP address situations because the system realizes you're a secure user who has access to those documents. Okay. So something to think about. We have got some tickets from folks who are like, hey, I'm trying to download a document from the public page and it's firing a security error, a CAPTCHA error. A lot of times, sometimes that's because everybody's hitting it at the same time from the public space. So again, just something to think about.
And we've had two different questions about the ability to export to an Excel format. I'm not sure where the business case is, but I
So
think
if you
Shane,
want to
yeah.
do, you're not going to be able to do that from the public page. If you need to export contracts in an Excel format, your best bet, come over here into eVA. I assume I'm still sharing that screen, aren't I? Yes.
Yep,
All right.
yep.
Yeah, just making sure. Come over here into eVA, browse contracts, set up your search parameters, your filters, the way you need them to be set up. That's going to narrow this list down, and then you can come over here to this, the very bottom. Now, right now, I've got every contract in the world available to me. So you do want to make sure you set up some sort of search criteria, filtering criteria to narrow down what you're looking for. Then you can hit this little widget. It's in the right-hand corner of the Browse Contracts page. Hit the widget, and you'll see a download option there. Now,
Yeah,
it's
I
going to be
just
limited. It's not going to have everything necessarily that you would need, but that certainly gives you a fighting chance to download into Excel. But again, need to be logged into EVA to do that.
And I think that that's what we definitely want to make sure you're hearing for this segment. This is about public access. So this
Yes.
is not about buyer access and the things that you might want to do and how you might want to export information associated with contracts that you shop from, have access to. All of that really, like Shane just mentioned, needs to be done from inside your buyer account access. This is about what you have access to from a public perspective, what your suppliers have access to, what Joe Public has access to from a public perspective. So we absolutely have to put limits on what publicly is accessible, especially with those bots and things, which is why we ended up with all those CAPTCHA requirements early on. So protecting our data, but also making it public is the goal of the public access. And for anything else, please log into your supplier account.
Buyer account.
I mean, buyer account. Sorry, Scott was asking about something on the supplier side.
And Kim does do tons of supplier training and outreach, so I bet that just rolls off the tongue easy
Yeah,
when
yeah.
because
So the
Kim shows suppliers these exact links when she's talking to them. So
yeah, they can. So yes, yeah, Scott, your answer is yes, and please, you guys, put your questions in the Q&A. It's really hard for me to manage questions in the chat, but we can
Yes,
definitely
Q
do
and
it
A.
better through the
And if
Q&A.
you're, I noticed if you're missing the Q and A on the presentation at the bottom,
It's
you may
under
have to hit
more.
the more options, and then the Q and A is an option to pull in if you're
Yeah.
missing it there on the presentation itself. All right, I just clicked on this link, the non-IT contract, so you could see, notice DGS DPS automatically comes in there, and that filters for the 411 statewide contracts that we have posted out there. You might also see me while Kim was talking. This page, particularly if you're in the same browser session, loves to save filters. Like it's its favorite thing to do. Like it'll save like there, I just went for Hall Automotive and put that in as a filtering option. It loves, loves, loves to save those filters, even if you leave the page and come back. And I might be able to get it to replicate. So notice I have 3 filters, right? So if I close this and come back and hit that again, you'll notice Hall Automotive stays on there. It's just kind of retaining that link. Very simple to clear the filters up, guys. You either click off the one you don't want, or you can clear all to get a clean slate. Okay, so don't get bent out of shape if there's, just watch for those filtering options. Let me throw another entity up there. There you go. I'll throw VDOT up there. Watch for those filtering options, making sure, I don't really need VDOT contracts. We'll clear it out. Click it or hit clear all to do a reset. And then you can go back in and you can do whatever you want. So lots of features and all sorts of different things you can do to get this list sorted from a public perspective. Quite honestly, very similar to what you can do privately. So again, just some quick tips here. I'll get back to the presentation in a minute. Um, Again, using that clear all button, to clear off any of those filters you have. The public private settings that we talked about earlier. And again, if you need contract documents and you have an eVA login, that's really the safest way. Go into eVA, find the contract that way through the browse contracts, and then you won't have any issues downloading those documents from eVA itself. So let me stop sharing again, and I'm going to reshare my presentation here. I'm going to buzz through um, some of the remaining things on the PowerPoint that we're doing, and then we will do a wrap up. Although I don't know why. There it is. I was like, I don't know why I'm not seeing my thing there. All right, so there we go. Here's our presentation again. Um, those are the tips I just talked about using Clear All, public-private settings, and the contract documents. All right. Some other things I want to show you, and we're going to do these. I'll kind of begin to buzz through these here real quick because I'll get through the slides and then I'll go over and show you because I want to be conscious of our time. We now have the Cardinal supplier status on the eVA supplier profile. So not only can you see if the supplier is an eVA, if they are, you can see what status they are in Cardinal. I'm going to show you that in just a minute. If there are any problems, and I'll try to reinforce this when we do it, if you're like, ooh, seeing that a Cardinal supplier is not approved, check for the W9 in eVA. That's always helpful. And the COVA W9 to be clear. And then if that's missing or it doesn't look right, that is more than likely the situation why Cardinal doesn't have them active. Contact that supplier and direct them to send a signed W9 to the CVG team. And then there's the email there, cvg@doa.virginia.gov. Certainly, we will also take the COVID W9 and eVA, but really, if you got an active eVA supplier account and a non-active Cardinal account, it's best to get that over to Cardinal as quick as you can. We'll certainly take it in eVA as well. A couple other things I'm going to buzz through. PO print report 203. I want to show you that. I know we've looked at that before, but some new things are in there and I want to show you that. Order approval list by user login. That's report 252. I want to show you that one. We've actually had a couple new enhancement requests coming on that, so that report might even get better. And then report 280, which actually allows you to run order details for our historical reports, or historical data, excuse me. And those are all of those POs that we did um, before we went live with our new platform. So any order started after 10/26/2022, you run report 200. But if you want to look at and pull some of that old historical data, we've got report 280 out there for you. So let me stop my share again. And I'm going to shift us back to eVA, maybe, if I can figure out my screens. There we go. And share. And that gets us back on the Virginia Business Opportunity site here. And I want to show you, I'm going to close this and we're going to close that and we're going to go into production now. So you can see real live production data. There we go. And I'm going to pull a supplier up here. And doesn't really matter. I hit browse suppliers. I've pulled up all suppliers. I'm going to grab this first one here, Acadia Consultants LLC. They're active in eVA, as you can see right there. I'm going to pull them up. If you want to see their condition, what condition the account is in the Cardinal financial system, go to company information, scroll down, and in the additional internal information, you'll see our vendor customer code, the VLIN, which is the location identification number, and the Cardinal supplier status. In this case, this supplier is active in eVA, but they are unapproved in Cardinal. All right. So my guess is, let me check their documents and certifications. I don't see a W-9. That is more than likely the issue. Cardinal will absolutely not activate an account in the Cardinal financial system without a valid signed COVID W-9 document. I don't see one in eVA. I doubt very seriously there's one in Cardinal due to the fact that they're unapproved. You would reach out to this supplier and you would say, hey, send me the COVID W-9 and then send it over to CVG or send it to eVA. Get that COVA W-9 turned in, but that is where that information is stored. All right, let's see if I can find one. I think let's check my favorite supplier. If you've been on any of our user groups or demos or anything in the past, I love my Blue Ridge Fence and Window. Let's see if they are active in Cardinal. I'll go to company information. I will scroll down and ta-da, they are approved. All right, so I'm good. I know that if I place an order to Blue Ridge Fence and Window and I need to cut them a check, that I'm not going to have a problem at the end of the process as long as I do my receiving and do my three-way match with my invoice and get that vouchering done. When that voucher goes over to Cardinal to get paid, I got an approved supplier. We're not going to have any problems. That check's going out the door. All right. So just an area that I wanted to show you guys there. Let's pop over to the report center because I know we are running up on time and I apologize for that, but I do want to show you some of these. Whoops, I actually went the wrong way. I wanted to show you PO report first. So bear with me. Let's go back. Browse orders. I want to show you this. I think this is cool. We've got some new information in report 203. So if you go to any purchase order, now again, this is hitting our data warehouse, so you're not going to be able to run this report immediately after the rec goes to ordered. But after our data warehouse gets synced up, you have the option here to do the print PO option right out of the purchase order. And when I hit that option, that's going to run that report 203 for me, and it gives you really everything you need for that supplier. You get the PO, the rec number sitting on there as well. You can see all the accounting and allocation information. But this was the one that excited me, and we finally got this data. It's not just telling me the users, it's telling me exactly what happened and why. So Davina Ellis was the requester. Davina, if she's out there watching today, hi Davina. So Davina put this requisition in for us. Pam Stevenson, there was an approval profile and a commodity approver that fired. So Pam approved it. Cost code 605 fired. Floyd Coburn over there with our surplus program. He was a cost code approver that fired, and then it hit our internal purchasing organization here at DGS, Emma Rich, the last approver on here. So you're getting some of that really detailed now approval information is coming in on this report directly out of eVA. We think that's great. And then the last part here, this one is fully received. Yay for Davina and our team for doing all their receiving, but you get the receiving information at the bottom as well. Now I'll shift over, and again, I apologize. I know we're almost up on time here at 11 o'clock. We'll keep going. If you can't hang with us, we completely understand if you need to move on, but I'll go ahead and continue to finish up the rest of this. There is a report 252. It is order order approval list by a user. So for a particular user, you can see what approvals they have done over a certain time frame. I have just sent over a request to Joel Pato with our DGS ISS team to add a couple more functions so you could run maybe for more individuals. Right now, you're running for just one. So I'm going to do last quarter, and then I'm going to put, not picking on Davina today, but I'm going to put Davina in there again. I'm going to run this report. And again, the quarter comes up, that's January through March. I'm going to run this report. And you're not going to see much for Davina, right? She's a requisitioner for us. She's doing, she's getting orders out the door. But I can tell from this, for that period of time, for these orders, she did some draft work and she did request her approval. So that's really telling you all the different things she did. She got a draft rec going, her workflow rules generated, she approved it, right? And then same thing here and same thing here. So this one, why it's going draft, she might have withdrawn it, fixed it, put it back in, is why you're seeing some different things there. But the idea for this is for a particular user, you can see what they've done over a certain period of time. I know one of the requests I literally just sent over this morning to Joel Pato was to be able to run this for additional users, to not just be restricted to one user. So according to Joel in our conversation today, there's all sorts of cool stuff that he can do with that. And then one last report that may be interesting. I won't run it, but I wanted to point it out to you. It's right there. I think this makes sense to you. It is a mirror image of report 200, which is kind of that really long, stretched out report with all the order details. This allows you to run for historical data. And again, the date cutoff on that, any order starting after 10/26 2022, you run report 200 because that was on the new platform on the evening of 10/26, 3 years ago, almost now. We cut off the system, and then through that weekend and into Monday, we put the new platform up. And then every order after that point in time has gone through the new platform. Run report 200 for that. Any of those historical orders that go back beyond 2022, or not beyond, earlier than 10/26/2022, you would run this report. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you guys today is some really exciting stuff. And kind of, again, I mentioned setting the table for our next user group, which will be in July, is I've got, and let me plow through my slide presentation here and get you to that point. So there's the updated reports. We'll get that on the recording as well, so everybody can see that. I'll let that sit for a minute because this will go onto the video recording. And then I'll go to the last thing here today, some new enhancements that we are looking to have. I will summarize that top one for you. Fiscal year is part of the allocation string when you're allocating your line items on your requisition. Every other allocation on the requisition, cost center, fund, account, um, probably missing a few, is agency controlled, except for fiscal year. Fiscal year, you just get what the enterprise gives you. Well, we are introducing an enhancement where at the agency level, at the entity level, the agency level, you will be able to control what fiscal years are available for your end user community. So that gives you some level of control. Sorry we didn't get it to you earlier, but certainly for year-end processing and some things like that, at the agency level, you will be able to control what fiscal years are available for allocation. Um, don't panic if you're like, we don't care. Because if you don't do anything, you'll just get the fiscal years that are available at the enterprise level. But again, for those of you at the agency level that want to control the fiscal years available to your end users, that's coming in. And then this has been one that has been long running. We're very excited to see this making progress as well. So when you have users that have done purchasing activities for you, sourcing, contracts, recs, POs, receiving, invoices, and we hope more of you begin to do invoices. If they retire, if they leave your agency, if they leave state employment and they become deactivated in eVA, their transactions do not disappear. The transactions are still out there, but it can be very difficult to search for a user that has become deactivated in the system because of retirement or leaving your organization. Well, we're bringing that in where you'll be able to search for transactions by users who are deactivated. So that's coming in as well. And I know that's been a request that's been out probably for 2 or 3 years that request has been out. So very excited. My plan, assuming all goes well with our design, development, and testing, we will be demoing that in our July user group meeting. So again, there's my little plug. Join us for our July bug meeting. That's it for me today. Again, sorry we ran about 6 minutes over. Hopefully, if you weren't able, you couldn't stay. Hopefully, I'm saying hi to you again because you pulled the recording that Kim sends out and you were able to watch the video and watch the back end of this presentation. So, very much appreciate everybody. I want to wish everybody a wonderful Memorial Day holiday, a very, very safe and fun summer, and we will catch up with you guys in July.
Yes, we will. And thank you so much for all the great questions and interaction. And if you didn't have your question answered, I believe we've gotten through most of those that were in the Q&A. We'll make sure that we circle back to this information after we stop today's meeting. And just know that there is an analytics tool that's in eVA as well for some reporting information that you might need access to. So make sure that you're checking in with your DPS account executive to know what you have access to. And there's certainly public reports and things, as well as the report and resource center through your buyer account exclusively. So ask the questions before you put yourself to more work. Odds are, if we capture the data, we have a way to give it back to you. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate all of the participation and just ditto to what Shane said. Signing off, and we will see you in, when are we going to, this May, we'll see you in July.
Yeah, July. It's our happy summer, everybody.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.